This episode is brought to you by Fox One. Watch all 104 matches of the FIFA World Cup live in 4K for just $19.99 a month with 3 days free. Build your own multi-view, choose up to 3 streams, and follow player spotlights. Stay on top of every moment with live stats, highlights, and instant replays. The FIFA World Cup, streaming live on Fox One. Offers are subject to change. See fox.com for complete terms and conditions.
Adobe Firefly is the all-in-one creative studio with AI-powered image and video editing for today's creative process. Built for creators of every kind, Firefly helps you generate, edit, and experiment fast. Because the asks aren't getting smaller, the budgets aren't getting bigger, and the timelines, oh yeah, still tight. With all the best creative AI models in one place, Firefly brings your ideas to life. Unlock a better way to make with Adobe Firefly.
Welcome to the Interviews Podcast. Welcome, Interisti, to episode 209 of the Interviews Podcast. We are here to talk through probably the companion episode, the follow-up episode to our latest regarding the Palestra saga. We decided to put together some different options that Inter could pursue in the aftermath of losing that deal. As of now, the main name is Anan Kalaili from Union Saint-Gilloise. He's a player that's super dividing the fan base for a number of different reasons. His country of origin is pretty controversial amongst the fan base, so that's going to be tough pill for a lot of people to swallow. Also, just in terms of like the profile, it doesn't seem like Inter's fan base is super high on him, but it looks like we are in a bit of a bidding war with Napoli for his services. So he could potentially be the guy. But we have some alternatives that we think are better. As always, I'm one half your co-hosting duo, Alessandro Rafa, joined here by Gianni Paterno. Gianni, did you get to see Ausilio's comments today at that event that Carnevale was at, or Manna was at, a number of different sporting directors? Did you have a chance to see some of the things that he said?
Yeah, kind of surprising the way he responded to a lot of things and kind of pointing the finger at everybody else and unwilling to take any blame himself, it seemed like. Mm-hmm. A little childish in my opinion, but then again, I don't know. Don't know what to expect with him, to be quite honest. So
I think a lot of the things that he was saying are true, and that is what is ultimately like the most devastating thing. I think the comment that stuck out to me the most was just talking about, Marotta is the go-between between the sporting area and Oak Tree. And, sometimes those conversations go well and sometimes they don't, which is it's a tough thing to hear, especially when you combine it with the context around some of his other comments about, he can't pursue certain profiles because he knows that other teams will be in on it. And we have some, some big restrictions as far as what we're able to spend. I think he specifically called out that we can spend half of what other teams can spend. So if you assign that to Palestra, it seems like this 25 mil, 30 mil number is true. Palestra went for 60. Inter probably does have a hard stop at 25 to 30 mil. And he basically was flat out admitting, despite the financial situation that Inter is in, Oak Tree is an asset manager, and that's how they are operating. We don't really have an owner like most other clubs do. So, this 25 million restriction on player deals is really, really difficult, those parameters to work within. And it's also unfortunate that everybody knows everybody knows. So if you are competing against Inter for a player, you know what number you at least need to beat in order to be the highest offer made available to the selling club. So that's great. And then if you're a selling club, you know what Inter's how serious they are about a player because you know what their top line is eventually going to be. So just really distressing situation to be in. You know, and part of it is like that's a serious mistake that ownership is making, but then also part of it is like, okay, well, as the directors, you guys are fully aware of it, yet somehow get yourselves involved in situations that obviously are not going to work out for you in the end. So it's just kind of embarrassing, and I don't know if you had anything else to really say about that.
No, anything I'd want to say, I'm sure people would cry about in our comments. So I don't feel like speaking upon these things too much because it seems like 85% of the listeners, all they do is cry about it. So if you have an opinion that doesn't align with your listeners, apparently you're not allowed to speak, and then they want you to be replaced. So better to just keep my mouth shut.
That's not going to happen. And for, you know, some of the comments, I mean, it just to like kind of address that, a lot of the comments that I've been reading, like, it really doesn't align with what was said on the podcast. So I do think that there's this thing that that happens where like you almost hear what you want to hear. I think we talked about a lot of different ways to look at the situation, and like some are obviously more in a negative light, but some are more like of the reality of the situation. But at the end of the day, people want to hear what they want to hear. But nonetheless, like I think the point of listening to a podcast about the team that you like is that you get different perspectives. But a lot of I think we both kind of agreed a lot on the last episode. So if people don't want to listen anymore, they don't want to listen anymore.
Yeah, I mean, I thought so too.
Yeah.
You know, and listen, in regards to this, if I'm being serious, like with the situation that Ausilio touched on, then it's like, then why waste your time pursuing a player like Palestra if that's not a realistic target?
Yeah.
If you know your limitations, then you could have literally gone to secondary options, and some that we're going to talk about here today that we both are interested in, and maybe wrap those up before other clubs get involved. You know, like if you know your limitation is 25 to 30 million, then go after that marketplace. And you know what? I think as a fan base, we would be okay with that if you're wrapping these deals up in a timely manner and able to secure talents that, you know, like look how quickly you were able to get Petar Sucic for 14 million. No one is upset about that not being $100 million player, you know, when you see the talent. It's just when you allow something like that to drag on and then you allow a Chelsea to swoop in. Yeah, of course, you know, like we know that we're not going to be able to compete with them on a financial level. So it's just like, hey, pivot to if you know, hey, 30 million is the most I can spend without having to get a further approval, then just hammer those home. And I'd be fine with three $30 million players if that's what I know, you know, I'm able to focus on.
Yeah, I mean, and a lot of it also like I think has to do with how the media reporting around these transfer sagas go, where it's almost like, you know, Luca Cerchione, who's been on fire this
Killing
mercato.
it.
Yeah.
Came at it. I've never heard of him till this, like the last month and a half.
Me neither. But he's been pretty spot on with everything. And even he tweeted today in response to Ausilio's interview where he was like, yeah, the only offer that Inter actually sent in was that 35 million euro opening offer for Palestra. So like, you know, if it was apparent that you weren't going to be able to actually do anything, every other outlet is reporting that it's basically coming down to the end. So do yourself a favor and avoid the shitstorm from the fans and like talk to journalists, you know, behind the scenes and like kind of neg the story a little bit. Like, you know, don't make it seem like it's at the finish line. I know that they're not making it seem like it and other people are reporting that, but it just makes you look terrible. You almost wonder, like, was Atalanta, even though it wasn't ever close, was Atalanta putting out that, oh, it's close, just to know that the rug was going to be pulled out and like make us look bad? It's like they really don't know how to handle the media aspect of this whole thing.
Or was it all just to, scare Chelsea into rushing into, making an offer?
Yep.
You know?
That's super possible. It's super possible. But either way, Inter's name is getting used to do all these things. And it feels like, a better effort can be made to address that. But nonetheless, where do we pivot to? What do we think are good options here? I know Johnny's list. I know my list. I think what I can say off the bat is that we've each selected 3 players who are on the younger side, would be good investments, are probably closer to that $25-30 million potential outlay, although there are some that the clubs are going to definitely ask for higher prices, but they're all within like this kind of range, and there are a number of exciting profiles. What we're going to do here is share the screen, show you a little bit about each of these players, and hopefully have you guys comment any ones that you think you really want to go after pretty hard. So Johnny, we'll start with your list. I think what I'll do is I'll share.
Save the one that I'm most excited about, the one that we both had on our list, for last, if we're gonna.
For last, okay.
Yeah.
All right. So then you want to go to the Porto option to start.
Yes. Let's start with him.
All right. Let me go ahead and share the screen here. Boom, boom, boom. You guys are going to see a weird look for a second before I get over here. Okay. All right, Johnny, can you see the transfer market profile for Martin?
Yes, I can.
All right. Why don't you talk about the kid for a little bit?
Yeah. So, I mean, anyone who's listened to the pod knows I've been watching a lot of FC Porto because I'm a big fan of Francesco Farioli, who I think is probably like really the most intriguing manager in world football, who's Italian. I love his style of play. I love that Porto have adopted it, not just at the first team level, but also amongst their academy levels, whether it's, their U23 or U21, 19, 17, 15, like all levels up to U15 are running the same type of formation, the same type of tactics, so that these youth players are able to elevate their game and then have an easy transition into the first team. But Martin Fernandez, every time I watched him, he is a fantastic dribbler. Might need to work a little bit on his passing and his crossing, but you do see potential. There are some that he just delivers perfectly, and I feel like he knows how to time a challenge. Whether it is being able to slide in and avoid committing a foul or stuff like that. He's an exciting player. He is only 20 years old. There's talks that a $25 to $30 million offer, even though he does have a release clause of $80 million, would be enough to be able to pry him from Porto. But, I do think that they would. Listen, Portuguese teams are very good at selling their players, unlike some clubs in Italy, specifically Inter. I think that they would really be able to hold out and potentially force someone to trigger that release clause, but he is able to play on both sides. He primarily plays on the right. The only time I've seen him switch to the left, at least in a game, was during an injury when, they had to kind of force him over there. But he is a right-footed player. You see, he is able to make pace. He does actually, from a defensive aspect, know how to position himself, to place himself perfectly between an attacker and like passes, and doesn't really let people sneak in behind them, which I think is, when you're only 20 years old, that is such a good trait to have. Dumfries, for at least in the early parts of his time at Inter, that was a known weakness of his, that he would lose track of the man being able to make those runs on the back post or those runs behind him. That fortunately has never been the case with Martin Fernandez. So yeah, he's one of the guys that I'm excited about, or would like to be able to go after if that was a possibility.
20 years old. He's already won Portuguese League, Portuguese Cup, and Portuguese Super Cup. So I think one of the things that, like, I always look at is pedigree, and we'll talk like what competitions these players have played in, and if they've won anything. It is important. So like if you were part of a winning locker room, especially at this young of an age, I think that's definitely something that stands out. His contract is expiring in 2030, so that's not necessarily in Inter's favor, and that's where that release clause becomes more difficult to work with, where you really got to lean on like the player's will a little bit. If you look at the agency that he's a part of, they don't have a ton of players under contract. People probably remember William Carvalho, but they haven't done a lot of these big moves yet. So that would be interesting. I wonder really if they'd be asking for huge commissions or anything like that. Just pulling up the injury history. So he's had several injuries. Last season he missed 74 days, 11 games. He has torn a ligament in his knee. He's dealt with muscle injuries, ankle sprains, stuff like that. So, I think probably what that says is like maybe he's not starting every single game off the bat. You probably need to like ease him into getting used to playing a super amount of games per season. He is 5'11", so you like that. On the taller side for a wingback. Just looking at his heat map from the last year here. So like Johnny said, played on the left, but obviously gets much further forward on the right. 1 goal, 1 assist, was in the team of the week 1 game, 20 appearances, pretty good. And then let's take a look at a little bit of video here. These videos always take forever to actually get to what you were trying to see. But we'll give it a second here. I think it's always good to like, we talk about these players, but you can actually see them. And that's kind of what the whole like Scout Society thing is about, is we actually want to watch the players and see what they look like. I think one of the things that you're always looking for is like, does this player look like a natural athlete out there? Does it look weird, or does it look like they actually really feel like they know what they're doing, and how they're progressing throughout these games? So let's see what this kid looks like a little bit. It's obviously very young. Oh, skipping past his man here, getting involved defensively. He looks like a really good athlete.
Yeah.
A couple defenders there.
Yeah, when I watched him, the only thing that really like gave me like a little pause is that some of the times his passing was a little erratic. He would play things a little too far in front of the intended target that would end up not reaching him. He would play things a little bit kind of recklessly, like, making passes in the wrong parts of the pitch, like allowing the opposition to be able to take the ball and run on the counter. So that's like the only thing that, like, out of all three, he's not my least. Oh yeah, he is my least favorite, but that doesn't mean that I think he's bad by any means. I just think he is a young player. He's going to grow. He's going to learn things. I wouldn't expect him to step in and like hit the ground running. These are all from last season. I was looking at this year when the video I watched.
I mean, it's pretty. He seems like really willing. It's like he doesn't look like he hesitates, which is a really important thing for a young player to have.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. The next one was Juan Luis Sanchez from Sevilla. Yeah. When I watched him play, excellent passer, crosser of the ball, great pace, can score. He's probably the best finisher of the three guys that I have on my list. He makes well-timed runs in the box, which is something that, when you look at Denzel Dumfries, that was something that he excelled at as well. I would say he's a better striker of the ball in terms of like taking actual shots, not heading it in like, Dumfries was probably much better at. There was rumors, I remember even last season, that Napoli were interested in bringing him in. I think that he I I'm glad that he actually didn't end up at Napoli, but I do think that he would be a fantastic addition to whatever team ends up getting him. And if we happen to be one of them, that'd be awesome. I think that he would be the cheapest of the three. They say like anything. I mean, I know what transfer market says is like 10 million, but they say 15 to 20 million would get it done. I mean, you look at what he brings, you see a complete player. I think that he would be a great get for us, especially given the fact.
He looks really two-footed.
Yeah, and like right. Wow, yeah, that was a great shot there too. I think this was a defensive play. Yeah, and when I remember watching him in a game against Barcelona, where he just shut down the whole right side of the field, like they just weren't able to make runs past him. He was making great challenges. He can play, obviously further up the pitch. He can play. I didn't know he could play centrally, but again, I sound like I watch La Liga all the time, especially not a team like Sevilla. But when I do watch, I liked everything I saw. And when I was doing the research on players, he was definitely a name that stuck out. And I thought that, that would be a great one to consider.
22 years old, contract expiring in 2029. So again, the selling club holds the cards there. He's part of a really big agency. So you look at some of the names that his agents manage: Nuno Mendes, Luis Diaz, Piero Hincapié. So like these are agents who are accustomed to getting big moves for their stable. So, would they consider Inter a big move there? I would think so, especially for Juan Lu and his experience at Sevilla. One of the more encouraging things is like injury history is not extensive whatsoever. So the kid plays. Last year he was able to miss one game the previous year, and only 3 the year before that. So those are things that you really do like to see. We'll see here. He's 6'1", so that's really good size for a right wing back here. You can see his heat map. I mean, he'll drift in a little bit, but most of the time he's sticking to the outside. So 3 assists on 5 big chances created. So he probably should have had 5 assists in total. His experience, he's played at the U21s with Spain. He's played at the Olympics. He's got Champions League experience. He was loaned out to the Segunda division as well. So he's a player with, a lot of experience at a young age. And I like the look of him too. I think he's a really good athlete, that is very like offensive. But, in Italy, you have to be able to do it defensively too. So that's one of the things where I want to watch a little bit more tape and understand there. But a really solid option. Ready for your next one?
Definitely a solid option. And the next one is the one that I would be most excited about, most want to see get done in a perfect world. Givaito Reed. I mean, this kid is 20 years old. He is the most complete one of all three. Solid defensively, a fantastic dribbler, strong runner. He's a better crosser than Dumfries, even at that age. Would be, without a question, my top choice. He has all the tools to be like one of the, if not the best right wing back in the world. And I'm not just saying that because I want him. I mean, just go watch the tape. The kid is incredible. I think when you look at what he does at Feyenoord, the fact that he's been able to play in big games, he actually was able to play against Inter in the Champions League 2 seasons ago. And Milan. And he did.
That Milan fixture was the one that exposed him to a lot of fans in our world on cultural Twitter, because he dominated them.
Yeah, absolutely bossed them. He did pretty well against us. I remember him actually cutting up my least favorite Inter player in Henrik Mkhitaryan a couple times. Just stripped him. And when you think about like getting the ball into the box and the way that he's able to cross and the way that he's able to just attack, and he's so calm with the ball at his feet, especially on the defensive side as well. Like when he has to drop back and defend his position, there's no panic in his game. There's no loss of focus. You would think because he's a young player, he would lose focus in those big moments. Not at all. And he would be honestly, like, Palestra was the dream signing. He would be the next one up. But the only thing that, would give me a little hesitation is that he did miss like 20-something games this past season with injury, hamstring ones especially. That situation that we have with Hakan Çalhanoğlu with his hamstring issues. Do you want that to be a case? I just think it's a matter of like a young player having that much time on the pitch, and also like the amount of games that he is playing. When you're playing multiple games in a week, he might be one of those ones where you have to rotate and maybe have him focus on the league and have another one, focus in Europe. Maybe that's like when Luis Enrique gets more opportunity kind of thing, who knows, but he would be my favorite signing regardless of the injury concerns. I think that it would be such a massive, massive statement for us, and would actually, make me feel much better about missing on Palestra, because you get a younger player who has more of a track record than Palestra, no offense to him, and I think a more polished, complete player in terms of what he can do with his all-around game.
He also has like the slightest frame of the three options that you brought up here. He's not like a super physically imposing person, so it's a very different kind of wing back to Denzel, where what you're looking at here is a player who gets it done and is effective via how technically good they are, as opposed to being able to physically impose themselves on a game. So this isn't like a set piece threat or anything like that. This is someone who gets the ball on the wing, and next thing you know, they're a bit of a speed demon. What you talked about with the injuries is definitely the kind of thing that you think, like, okay, how is this player so effective? With his speed and with his burst and acceleration, well, if he's suffered, injuries, including a hamstring injury, those are a number of those are the things that long term you get nervous about, because it can kind of slow down the player a little bit. As far as his value is concerned, like, does the fact that big hamstring injury that caused him to miss 25 games last year, like, is that, or the two hamstring injuries, sorry, does that affect his price at all? You would hope that it kind of puts you in the other bucket where it gets a little bit more competitive for Inter, given the risk around him, but you never know, especially with someone who's on a contract till 2029. As far as his agent is concerned, let's see who's in his stable here. So a lot of Dutch players, Joey Veerman, Sven Botman.
If you scroll down, you'll see a pretty familiar name to Serie A fans, who is actually out of contract.
Per Schurz, former Inter target.
So, yep.
So we've spoken with this agency before,
and Feyenoord has said it. Like that it would take 32 million to get the deal done. To me, that's so feasible. Like, I would honestly offer 28 plus bonuses, and that should, I think, real. The thing with Dutch teams is they are much more of an easier league to negotiate with. So I think that if you offer 28 plus the 4, if certain parameters are, maybe it's the amount of appearances made. If you want to make it, let's say 25, 27 appearances, I think that's a fair number. To get it done, I don't see why that wouldn't be the situation. So, he would be the guy.
His heat map, if you look at his heat map, he does drift in a lot. So he does drift in to combine with the midfield a lot of the time, which is different than some of the other wingback profiles we've been looking at. So for you, it seems like Reed would be your number one. Yep. Probably he's the second easiest one to get. Juan Lu is probably the easiest one to get, but he's at third.
For sure.
Martin Fernandez would be the hardest to get, but he's your second. Is that?
No. It would be the way it was done. Yeah, so Martin would be third. Juan Lu would be second. And I just think for a cost, point, I think that if you're able to wrap that up for 15 million, wow, what what a good get that would be. But I think if you want something that, like, if you think about it in terms of resale value, Reed would be the one that would probably be, the best value to get. And you already see that there is interest from Bayern Munich. There is interest supposedly from Manchester City. If you're able to step in and get something done, which again, I don't know
It's a big
how
ask.
quickly something could happen, but then, like, let's say he has 2-3 great years or even just 2 years at Inter, where the ability to be able to resell him to one of those clubs could be incredible. So
Yeah. Yep, definite big resale value on him, and he's also the youngest, I believe.
is
or
the
maybe
youngest.
it's Mark
Yep.
Team. Yep.
No, he is. Reed is the youngest.
Yep. So good on the resale. So I'm gonna switch over to my picks here. I'm a big Reed fan as well. I'm actually a big fan of all three of those, but Reed is also definitely a guy that would be on my list. But we'll start with a Croatian because gotta
That's all you needed to say. That's all you needed to say.
gotta ensure I get Johnny on my side here. So we'll start with Moritz Valencic out of Dinamo Zagreb. We've dealt with them a lot. We've had a lot of success in dealing with them, frankly. And this is a pretty cheap player. So he's not, I wouldn't say, I think he's probably the least talented of all six of the players that we're going to get into here. He's much more of a defensive option than someone that can provide us a lot in terms of the offensive game, which would mean that he's sort of like at the bottom of really what I'm prioritizing in my next move. But we've been interested in him before. We have good relations with Dinamo. If I'm thinking of a player that, is someone that we can go to where we know it's not going to be too difficult to snatch this player up, then Valencic would definitely be a player that I would look at. He's got an expiring in 2029. As far as his agent is concerned, this is an agent that has brought players to Serie A several times, including Rachmani at Napoli, Basic at Lazio, Voivoda at Como. So, we are talking about an agency situation that very much works in our favor. He has dealt with one major injury in his career, and it was last year. It was a pretty major injury, an ankle sprain that had him miss 11 games. So that's obviously something that you want to keep an eye on. Pull up his SOFA score here. So he's definitely a hug the touchline defense type player. So you can
that
see
he's the brightest shade of red. Holy cow.
Yeah. So he's obviously very involved. You look at the numbers, they're not, nothing to write home about. Only 2 big chances created. I think one thing that I always look for is like, okay, they're not creating a lot. Are they safe and are they accurate? 89% in your own half is you would hope for a better number than that, but 81% in the opposition half is pretty good. What that means though is that he's safe. Like he's safe in the other half. He doesn't take a lot of risks, which again, like that's, the kind of player that that we're talking about here. He's more of a safe option. So we'll watch a little bit of the highlights here. Most of the stuff you see is going to end up being defensive and kind of safe passes. So he's 23 years old, so he's one of the older players on the lists that we've put here together. But he seems to just have a really good sense of positioning, especially in the defensive phase. It's tough to beat him, and like he's a problem as far as making it easy for the opposition. He definitely does not do that. Physically, he's also pretty imposing. This is a wider, thicker type player, and I can also see him slotting into like a right center back role in an emergency situation. So I think there's potential for some good versatility out of him. Moritz Valencic out of Dinamo Zagreb. Any thoughts there? Anything that
I mean,
stood
yeah,
out to you?
I do like a thicker player like that. I think when you have someone who is a little more physically imposing, that makes it obviously difficult to get past them, to be able to bully them around the pitch. So that's something I do like. And then yeah, when you talk about the flexibility to maybe be able to switch into a right side of a back three, like yeah, if you need to throw on a Luis Enrique or you want Diouf to have a more attacking threat on the right side, like that would be an interesting profile to have, or have that as your disposal. So all about it.
Next guy is Shakhtar's team. For anyone that like didn't really get a chance to watch them last year, they are loaded. Like they've always been really good with the Brazilian talents. They are loaded with some really really interesting players, including a right wing back, Vinicius Tobias, and this player is a house. He's like Luis Enrique, but without the hesitation. He's hyper aggressive and hyper athletic. 22 years old, contract expiring in 2029. His agent situation, let's just pull that up here. Wait for that to load. While we wait for that to load, no injury history. So he is,
That's
as of
huge
now,
plus.
pretty available. So the interesting thing about his agency is that his agent is also the agent for Joel Ordonez, which is a player that we've apparently had some interest in as well. So this would be, maybe a good agency to get involved with, and maybe do like a 2-for-1 kind of situation. We'll bring in 2 of your guys this summer, and kind of see what they say. But let's watch a little bit of him now. So like I was describing before, he's, you know, extremely physically, like what you would expect from a Brazilian wingback. Got a good, good foot on him. You
Yeah.
saw him putting that one in the back of the net here. He's also a willing defender.
Was
He's
that
a good
against
athlete.
Atalanta? That looked like Pasalic that he just cut off.
I didn't exactly see, but probably in the Champions League or in Europa League at some point. All right, so that's a little sombrero out of nowhere. Good feet, like makes decisions quickly, doesn't hesitate. These are all good things that you want to see out of your young players. Good switch of the ball there. He can use both his speed and his delivery. Like he's got a really good delivery on him. So these are things that we like to see. Let me just load this again here because I want to show you guys the heat map. He's 5'9". So similar to Reed there, and also kind of similar heat map where you see a lot of like his ability to drift inside here, but mostly hugging the touchline. 2 goals, no assists. I think this would be a really interesting option for us. Shakhtar paid $6 million for him, and I haven't heard a lot of teams link with him, so hopefully we can get in there. And then the last name is going to be a Portuguese player.
This is another good shout. I like this one.
Moreirense, in the Portuguese first tier. So this is another 22-year-old Diogo Travassos. He burst onto the scene last year. You'll see here in his sofa score here, he can actually play on both flanks, which I do like that versatility. He was in the team of the week twice. He had 5 goals and 3 assists, created 7 big chances. Like you can see this heat map. Like he was all over the place. For Moreirense, 5'9", so he's not super physically imposing, but he is actively involved in the Portuguese youth setup. We'll see here with his agent. I actually think it's an agent that we've seen on this list before. Really intriguing part about this player is that he's been super productive in the Portuguese league, and he has a contract that's coming up in 2026. So I think like if you're looking for a high ceiling player, like, so yeah, we already have dealt with this agent in this conversation before. Same agent as Nuno Mendes and Luis Diaz. So that's also a good thing where you're like, okay, can this be the next step before, a a jump to the Premier League or something like that. I think that's appealing for the agent side. You don't necessarily want that to be your situation as a club, but doesn't get injured a lot. And let's watch a little bit of who he is as a player, because I think he's a very intriguing option. Being as productive as he was at 22-year-old in the Portuguese league, and I mean, you watch the league a lot. Like, it's definitely not an easy league for young players, but they get a lot of chances. So you can see here, quick feet.
Yeah, it's always funny when people talk about it like as if it's like a third world country league. It is not the case at all. No. There is a lot of talent in there. I think, if you really wanted to compare it against the Bundesliga, like talent wise, like I would argue that it's probably a little bit more talented.
He's like very technically adept, good striker of the ball, can use both feet. I mean, these are things that you like to see here.
Yeah, and look at that, like the recovery, the pace to be able to catch up to that guy right there. I remember actually he had I wonder if it's going to be in this. It might not be. But he did have like a really sick like goal line clearance against Sporting. So, I mean, the guy can play defensively. He is really good at the technical aspect, which, like you said, that's a great shout. I'm a big fan of that one.
I feel like all these players that we talked about are better options than some of the names that we've seen linked. I mean, not all of them. Like, I probably would prefer is it Kalil? I have to make sure I'm getting that correct, but I maybe would prefer him to Valencic. I just don't think Valencic's ceiling is that high. He's more of a limited player.
Yeah.
But the other players, like, I think I'd prefer pretty much all of them to him.
I mean, yeah, to me, it's not even a question. It kind of makes you wonder, like, what is going on in scouting over there? Like, what are they actually looking for?
Like, why does it happens in Italy a lot where you see like a player gets linked to one club and then all of a sudden another club is like interested in that player. It's like, there's so many other options. Like, what is you're going to actively involve yourself in a bidding war. It's almost like that happens to Inter a lot. Inter has interest in a player, and then other teams all of a sudden they're interested and they go hard for them. But this seems like a weird one where it looked like he was going to Napoli for a while, and now Inter is involved. It's like, where's the scouting here?
And it's like, you're not going to be able to win a bidding war, so why even bother? Like, try to like lock down people or names that you don't see other clubs like really being tied to. So yeah, maybe that's why they're not interested in Reed. I don't know. Like, I still think that they should go in for that, because if those clubs were serious, they would have just gotten it done already. Like, you still have the ability to go in, do the same thing that Chelsea did, pay them what they want and get it over with. I'm sure whatever contract you offer would be an improvement of what he's getting at Feyenoord. So it's like, just get it done if that's the one that they ended up going for. But yeah, like I like your choices. I wouldn't be mad at I think the least one would be the guy from Dinamo Zagreb, but I think everybody else, like if one of those were able to be done, I'd be cool with it. And if financially that was the motivating factor, then cool. I'm still happy with Juan Luis Sanchez, so.
I feel like we put together a lot of options that are like not financially restrictive.
Yeah.
Which is what they should be doing. So some names for the Interisti to check out, and who knows, like maybe we can make a dent here. Maybe if everyone gets on board for a certain player and Interisti start talking them up, maybe someone in the organization will notice and do something about it. Although the hopes are not high for that. All right. You got anything else?
Yeah, I think it's time for another card giveaway. And I think the only way that you'll be able to get the cards is on one of our socials, whether it's YouTube, whether it's Spotify, whether it's Apple Podcasts. You have to say something nice. How about that? How about you have to kill him with kindness if you want to be entered in this chance to win. And if I'll probably post something on the Instagram as well. I'll probably just do one video for Instagram, and if you want to comment there, and I will wait. Let's see, today, well, this episode will be released tomorrow morning, so Tuesday, June 30th, and I won't do a winner until the 4th of July. So you have until the 4th of July to get your entry in.
Nice. And then pair that comment with which of these players you'd be most interested in seeing
Yes.
in an Inter jersey.
Yep. I like
That's the way to do it.
Perfect.
Alrighty. So we'll be back. We'll get an episode of Scout Society in this week. If you guys want to check out some non-Inter related content, we'll be taking a look at some of the players that we had on our watch list for the World Cup, and maybe some others that caught our eye. Do a little bit of a deeper dive, and that's it. In the words of the great Roberto Scarpini, forza ragazzi, forza ragazzi, forza ragazzi.